You ran for president for a while and then changed your mind and said that you were basically getting out of the race for family reasons. The Senate is, in some ways, just as demanding. How have the family reasons changed?
Well, if I get hired to go to the Senate, I get to sleep at home each night.
Okay, well,
Well,
arguably in the White House, you can take your family with you if need be.
The 3-year job application process with teenage daughters.
Yeah.
I've got a senior, junior, and 8th grader. And as I thought about, again, governor versus Senate, there was along with my wife, a 4-0 vote. Let's go run for the Senate versus the governorship again. I mean, there was also, it just didn't feel like the right time. That being said, even as I decided not to pursue national office, I said to my family, I said to the press, I said to friends at that point, hey, I hope I'm not done with public service. I hope that I've still got something else to offer. And I sure as heck, back to my earlier decision about governor versus Senate, I think we're at this moment in time where we got to get it right. We don't have the luxury of 4 or 5 more years of drift, and my hope would be, come January of '09, there's going to be a new president. I hope it's a Democrat, but regardless, there's going to need to be members of the Senate who will go up there and work in a bipartisan fashion to get things done. The one thing, and I know there's probably a lot of folks in the room that may be Democrats, but one of my greatest fears will be that the Democrats, if we win everything, may have the same arrogance that the Republicans did, that can foist one-party solutions on the American people. And the American public doesn't trust either political party enough to have one-party solutions to the kind of major issues that we need transformative change.
Well, what do you think of the leadership of Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi right now? Do you think that's been effective?
I think they have been effective. They've still got challenges with the White House.
But the the public rating of the House and the Senate right now is
I think the ratings are because I think what happened in '06 as much as anything else was enormous frustration with this president, enormous frustration with the past Congress that I believe, again, will go down as one of the most institutionally corrupt in modern American history. And folks said, and this is again, some of the friends in the party will disagree with me on this. I don't think it was as much as we're going to suddenly embrace the new Democratic message as much as we're going to fire the other guys. And I think what people have looked for is they're waiting for a whole series of change. They don't want to follow all the ins and outs of each particular bill, but they want to see major change around Iraq and a host of other areas. And while there have been some positive things, the student loan program, the minimum wage, a series of smaller legislation, the battle over the S-chip at this point, the children's health insurance, on some of the big issues, you still have the ability to come to gridlock, both in terms of the Senate, in terms of getting the 60 votes, and an administration that has basically reflexively said no to everything the Democrats have tried to do.
If you get into the Senate, would you want to see Harry Reid continue as the leader?
Listen. Ask me when I'm hired, but I think Harry Reid's doing a good job.
You think he's doing?
But I do think this. One of the things I've said to some other folks who urged me to run is that I'm a pretty independent-minded guy. When I was governor of Virginia, especially the first year or so, I probably made the Democrats as mad as I made the Republicans. And I believe with all my heart that we're at this moment when part of the job is to rally the Senate. Part of the job is to get that 8 to 10 to 12 senators, Democrats and Republicans alike, to kind of hang together to get some things done in this country. And that means I'm going to probably chart a pretty independent path if I get hired.
So you may end up being leader down the road. In your process of deciding, because I think it could have been 6 months ago. You hadn't decided yet whether governor or senator.
6 months ago.
5 months ago?
2 months ago.
2 months ago. Okay, well, it's been did John Warner call you and say, just hold your horses? I'm thinking of...
Listen, Senator Warner and I have become great friends. I mean, it's kind of unusual that you run against somebody. And for those of you who are new to the region, I actually did run against John Warner in 1996. And just a quick snippet from that campaign, our great idea, Mame's idea on that campaign, and yes, Mame is the person who, nobody says no to Mame Riley, but our great idea in the 96 campaign was our bumper strip that simply said, Mark, not John on it. And for those of you who are DC residents that don't get south of the Occoquan, give you a little flavor of Virginia. There was, honest to goodness, one day I was in Danville, Virginia on the North Carolina border. I'm out there shaking hands, trying to get votes. Somebody sees me, sees my bumper strip, says, "Excuse me, sir, is that a biblical reference?" But John Warner and I, after that, became great friends. Everything I did that was hard as governor, from some of the transportation battles to the tax reform effort, he stood right there with me. And I wouldn't have run against him if he'd run again.
You know he was an accidental senator. It's because of a plane crash that he ended up with the nomination. And there were low expectations for him. How do you think he turned out in the end?
I think he was a great senator. And I think he continues to serve with the kind of style and grace and bipartisan approach that I'd love to try to emulate.
Do your campaign staff tell you what percentage of votes you can expect to get from people who just see Warner on the ballot?
You mean this year you think maybe it ought to be keep a Warner in the Senate? You know? Or some of my friends who are particularly fiscally conservative on the other side, I can make the case we can save an awful lot of money. We don't even have to print up new stationery. We can don't have to change the name
Maybe
on
you
the
can
door.
even get his office. The Republicans are planning to have a convention rather than a primary, and the conventional wisdom is that with a convention, Gilmore has a better chance at it. And it's likely that if, you know, he has like one paragraph in his bio, and it's basically Homeland Security, Homeland Security. Do you think that's where he'll come at you?
He's got no car tax as well.
And he's got no car tax. But do you think that's where he will, assuming it plays out this way, which is what it's looking at right now, that he'll run against you on Homeland Security?
As somebody who put together and actually hired the current Republican state chair as my Homeland Security director, John Hager, and was very active on Homeland Security. I'm proud of what we did when I was governor. But part of my thought is, of course you're going to have to respond to whoever your opponent is. But I'd rather make the case to the people of Virginia why they ought to hire me, and less about why the other guy's no good.
Well, with a great advantage coming in, as you seem to have right now, you're way ahead in the polls.
Yeah, but let me assure you, the way ahead in the polls 13 months out.
And that's where I'm going with this, because Hillary Clinton is the other candidate in the same position, and actually you two have this in common. You've each only had one elective office. You're both way out in front, but with that comes vulnerability. Yes.
Right.
Do you agree?
Well, absolutely.
Nobody else seems to think so.
Every time I have somebody come up to me and say in Virginia, "Oh, Mark, or Governor, you're going to be fine," I just say, "Remember the 2006 Senate election." So it's.
So how do you shore up? How do you keep your staff feeling that you really are in a race?
Well, let me assure you, I'm pretty obsessed.
Okay.
I believe that I got a 13-month job application process. I'm not taking anything for granted. I am, I got to raise the resources. I got to make the case, and I also got to make the case that it's, I think the people of Virginia deserve reasons why I want this job. And a lot of it, and some folks in my own party may disagree, because I really think this whole notion of forging more of this bipartisan coalition is absolutely critical.